Hi everyone, let's begin. I'm Dr. Michael Rota. I teach philosophy at the University of St. Thomas, and I want to talk about AI tutors today. Generative AI has posed a challenge for educators. Cheating is just a lot easier now. On any take-home assignment, this is especially problematic for online courses and university settings. So cheating is not only easier, it's a little harder to get caught, or at least to be proven wrong if you've used a large language model intelligently. So in the language of economics, the costs of cheating are lower. So we're probably going to expect to see more of it. That's already happened at my university. And this is a problem. It's a problem for the students who do cheat. It's impacting their learning. It's a problem for the students who don't because it's not fair. And yet we want our students to learn outside of class. So we have a problem. Ethan Mollick is a professor at Wharton and a noted commentator on AI and education. He talks about this as the homework apocalypse. And he's even said, quote, homework is dead. So as an educator myself, I found that to be a scary thought. So I asked GPT-4o to create some art for me. And I asked it to please create a scary image representing students in their dorm rooms using generative AI to cheat on homework assignments while a distressed professor stands in the quad wondering about the future of education and humanity itself. Pretty good. That's what GPT-4o gave me. If your screen resolution is good, you can actually see he has tears welling up in his eyes. In fact, I think homework is not dead, but we do need to adapt. So the challenge is this. We still want our students to learn outside of class, but we need to create take-home assignments that they both have a reason to spend time on and do, and yet don't have an incentive to cheat on. And that might seem like an impossible set of conflicting criteria. In fact, however, generative AI can actually help us do this, and that's what I'll talk about today. So before I explain how I think generative AI can help, let me briefly talk about some limitations of ChatGPT and other large language models. The first, as you probably know, are what are called hallucinations. So sometimes the model just makes stuff up, and it's not always easy to tell what the made up parts are. Secondly, GPT-4 might not have access to all the information you care about. So if you're a student in a certain class, you might want to know how your professor defines a certain concept. And the standard, large language models aren't going to know about that. So we have a lack of focus on the right information. The primary solution to these two problems is something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, which was invented by an engineer at Facebook about 5 years ago. The idea is simple. Basically, you take the reasoning power of the large language model and you add to it a storehouse of trusted facts, vetted information. And then you tell the AI, hey, when you're answering questions about such and such, look over here for your answer. And that gives the AI access to the information you want and dramatically reduces hallucinations. So using that technology, you can create an AI tutor. And there are really great ones already made. For example, Khan Academy has the Khanmigo tutor. So the idea of an AI tutor, well, you've probably learned things on ChatGPT by asking it questions. An AI tutor is the reverse, where it asks you questions, you answer, and it evaluates your answer, and maybe guides you to the right answer if you've got it wrong. So, as I say, generic AI tutors already exist, and they're terrific. But the problem is, well, they're terrific as software. They don't tap into students' motivations correctly, very efficiently. It's the rare student who wants to go talk to a computer and learn chemistry. So what we really need is a tutor that's linked to what the student cares about, which is his or her own class and the assignments due in that class, and his or her personal relationship with the instructor of that class. So that's the idea of a personalized AI tutor. Briefly, the professor puts in the questions that the AI will ask the student. The professor puts in the answers or the evaluation criteria, which will guide the AI in responding. And then the AI takes care of the conversation, and then the professor can look over it all at the end when the students turn in their homework electronically. Let me show you how this looks. I'll pop out of this PowerPoint and let me show you the actual app. And you'll have a chance to try this later on in the session. So what you're seeing right now is the instructor view. Each row is a course. So this Philosophy 110, that's one of my actual courses in the fall. And I have put in all these assignments. These used to be paper assignments on recognizing arguments, on propositions, on validity, on many logic type things we do in introductory philosophy. Let me show you a deliberately simple example so you can see the student experience. So let's say you were taking a simple math class, finite math, and the professor has put in this question: solve for x squared equals 16. What are the right answers to that problem? Well, x equals 4 and x equals -4. There's a negative root. See this little over on the right where my cursor is? There's a little eye icon. That's going to give us a preview of the student experience. So now pretend I'm a student. Oh, I've got my homework. Solve for x squared equals 16. Oh, that's easy. X is 4. Let's say I've forgotten about the fact that -4 is already an answer. Now a message has been sent to GPT-4 that said, hi, I'm a student. I was just asked this question, x squared equals 16. I wrote x equals 4. My professor's answer was this. Please evaluate my answer. So the AI says back, you've correctly identified that x equals 4 is a solution to the equation x squared equals 16. However, can you think of another number that when squared would also result in 16? Now, suppose I wasn't there that day in class and I'm just quite confused. And I say, well, 3 squared is 9, and that's too small. And 5 squared is 25, and that's too big. So there is no such number. So I'm doubling down. My answer is right. And the AI is gonna give me another hint. You're right. The 3 squared is 9 and 5 squared is 25. But remember that squaring a negative number also results in a positive number. Okay, that's the feedback I needed. Oh, so x could be -4 too. At this point, when I hit enter, the AI will now know, okay, you got the answers. And this little there's a little green check mark over in the left column. That's the way we're doing grading. So this is for low stakes assignments. We've taken away the incentive to cheat for the student. Because it would take more time to go outside the app and find the answer. Rather, within the app itself, you're guided to the correct answer. So every student can get 100% on these assignments if they talk to the AI long enough. Now, in my class in philosophy in the fall, most of the assessment, most of the grading for the students will come from in-class exams and in-class writing. But this is for learning outside of class, this particular mode. Okay, let me show you a slightly harder question and show you a few more features of the software. So let me show you a statistics example where we're actually going to ask the student a question and we're going to ask the student to explain the steps in their reasoning. And then I, the instructor, I've told the AI, for the student's answer to be fully correct, the student must do 2 things. First, give the correct final answer, the blah, blah, blah. And second, explain the steps. And then I've told the AI, hey, here are the steps. We can ignore the details for a second. Let's look at the student experience. So here I am, week 1 of statistics. I'm learning about correlation. Suppose that in a sample of 45 owls, there are 20 juveniles and 25 adults. Of the 20 juveniles, 14 are red in color and the rest are gray. Of the adults, 14 are red and the rest are gray. In this sample, is being red correlated with being an adult owl? Please answer and also explain the steps in your reasoning. Now, the way correlation works, we need to look at proportions. So we need to look at all the adults and ask what percentage are red, and all the juveniles and ask what percentage of the juveniles are red. And whichever number is higher, that's the one that's correlated with being red. But let's say I just don't care and wasn't in class, whatever. I'm just going to guess. Being red is not correlated with being an adult owl. Now, let me break it down. That's actually the right answer, but I didn't explain my steps in reasoning. So the AI is going to make me do that. But I might as well explain the problem here. Of the 20 juveniles, 14 are red. So 14 over 20 is 70%. So 70% of juveniles are red. Of the adults, 15 out of 25 are red. That's 60%. So no, 60% is less than 70. So being red is not correlated with being an adult. So I've given the right answer, but I didn't do what the professor asked me to do, which was explain the steps. And the AI notices. It says, you correctly concluded that being red is not correlated with being an adult owl. However, can you explain the steps you used? For instance, how did you compare the proportion of red owls among adults versus juveniles? So it's giving me a hint. It's helping the student. That's what we want. So let's say the students say, oh, okay, so 15 out of 25 adults are red, and that's 60%, which is less than the 14 out of 20 juveniles, 70% who are red. So being red is not correlated with being an adult. Now, before AI, you couldn't have a computer grade something like this, but generative AI is amazing. And now you can have these open-ended questions where the students have to go through steps and the AI tracks it. So it said exactly, you explain the steps right, and it marked me correct. Okay, in 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to all of you. So I'm going to invite you to get on the platform and put in some questions and answers from your discipline and play around with it. But let me show you around a little bit more on the app. First of all, this doesn't only work with hyper-objective disciplines like logic and math. It's great for reading engagement questions. Like you can ask the student, hey, you read this such and such for your reading. What did Aristotle mean by this? And then you can give some instruction to the AI about what a good answer looks like. And then the student has a conversation. So it's a way for the student to do discussion questions before they comment on the reading and get graded for it. Okay, let me show you a few other things. This little help icon takes you to some basic instructions about how to set up your course. To create a course, it's this purple button in the corner. You create it manually this way. The little star diamond in the sky icon allows you to upload documents and such, but today I'll just show you this create. So let's create a new course called Demo. And then what a course consists of is a set of assignments. So let's call this assignment homework 1. And then an assignment is a set of question and answer pairs. So this is where the instructor would write in questions. If you want to do equations, or tables, you've got some options here. Here's an equation editor. Let's say you want to do a fancy equation, the integral from a to b of x squared minus 1 with respect to x. That's natural. You can just say the equation in natural language. And then that message is actually sent to GPT-4 and turned into the formatting that makes it look nice. It threw in an extra comma. I'm going to take that out. Okay, now it looks good. You can also, if you have a pencil tool or you can draw with your mouse there, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so we have additional functionality coming very soon within the next week or two, which is you'll be able to add images to display to the students. Let's say you have a question about a graph or something, you can show the student a picture of the graph. And then we'll have coming within the next few weeks, this can be used for grading. So basically, if you've used Canvas, the way grading works, you have a page you can go to where the rows are students, the columns are assignments. And then in each cell is the grade the student got on the assignment if they started it. And if not, there's a little hyphen. So we'll have the same setup, but you'll be able to click into the 85% that John Smith got, and you'll be able to see the chat that he submitted. Furthermore, if you create a bunch of questions, let's say based on an open source textbook that you really like or another textbook, and you can share that with any professor you like. So you can create a course and then share it with colleagues. Okay, let me go back to the slideshow. Okay, and briefly go over the benefits before I hand it over to you. So students receive immediate feedback on just the points they need help on, and like they don't have to wait for you to give them their homework back 4 days later. And the feedback's based on the instructor. This second one is big. The students can ask questions without embarrassment. If they miss class, the AI tutor will explain it back to them if the instructor has put in an explanation. So students can make mistakes and not be embarrassed. There's very little incentive to cheat. The grading burden is reduced for faculty, and we have a great feature to actually facilitate in-class grading for tests. That'll be rolled out in the next few months. And here's the biggest point for me. What I hope from this is that it frees up more class time for me to engage with with my students on deeper issues. So I want them to be learning more outside of class so that when they get to class, we're ready to have a great conversation. Okay. Yeah, so this can be used for homework and problem sets, for reading comprehension questions, for practice quizzes and exams, like compare it to a static study guide where you just give them a test. You say, here's what you need to know for the test. Well, with this, you can put in a practice test and they can just take it and talk to the AI if they get things wrong. Here's what I invite you to do now. You can go to a browser window, navigate to that website, personifyai.app. In the upper right, there'll be a Get Started button. You can hit that. And then you'll be asked, there's a field for an access code. And if you write early access dash Rota, all lowercase, like that, early access is one word, then you can authenticate with any Google or Microsoft email account. And that will create a free, no charge, no obligation account for you to play around with. You can play around with it as much as you want. And in our few minutes here, I invite you to hit create first assignment, and then put in a question and answer, and then test the student experience with that little eye icon over on the right. I will monitor the chat if anybody has any questions, and then I'll call you back in about 10 minutes. Okay, hi everyone. So we've just got 5 minutes and I've been asked to in 2 minutes early so you can get to the next session. So I hate talking to a computer. I wish I could take a question and answers, but if anyone has questions, you can put them in the chat. Let me just tell you about this early access for the fall. So this will be ready for students in the fall. There's all sorts of really cool features that I haven't had a chance to talk to you about, but if you can log back into your account that you've created anytime, and if you just go to that help icon, the document, right now it's like a little one-page explanation. That'll get a little longer and we'll explain more features. Um, so yes, if you would like early access, you can actually scan that QR code right now, and it'll take you to a little web app, which will allow you to like somehow enter your email and answer just a few questions, like, are you faculty or administrator? And so you can scan that web app. You can also email me in the lower right corner of the slide. There's my email for our little company here, Mike at personifai.app. And if you want to scan the QR code, there's no obligation, but it's just something where if people are interested, then we can get in touch with you. The idea is you could try it out in the fall for even just one assignment, and then ask your students how they liked it, and then talk to us for maybe a 30-minute Zoom call with a bunch of other instructors so we could get some feedback about what you liked, what you didn't, and that would actually help us make version 2 better. We're eager to take into account feedback from professors actually using this. A number of my colleagues are using it at St. Thomas. We're excited for it. So let me look at the chat. Looks like there are a few more questions. Does this use your input data for others? I think that means, I think I understand the question, and the answer is no. So basically, what you put in, first of all, is not, we have it set up so GPT, this is built on top of GPT-4. It's not training on your data. So it won't learn from your data. And so people wouldn't be able to get your data back out by asking GPT-4 the right questions. Of course, your students will see your questions and the AI will explain the stuff that you put in. But okay, that was your question. Furthermore, you can share your courses, but only with the people you want. Like if you want to share it with this colleague and that colleague, then there'll be a way to do that. Will it be available over an API at any point? That's a good question. We haven't thought about that. Frank says that was fun. That's awesome. Gabe says, can I tell the tutor to give the student the solution after 3 incorrect attempts or change parameters on how much help it gives? That's a good question. I don't have an answer I can give to that in 30 seconds, but maybe I would say. Can I create a question and answer and share it with others? Yeah, okay. A public library using this for a program? Absolutely. I think that could be really fun. I mean, someone at the library would decide which questions and the students would be asked, what assignments they would do. Absolutely. That's a neat idea. Okay, it's 4:28, so I'll stop talking and invite you to head on to your next session. But thanks very much for joining in. Thanks for the comments in the chat. Question about Beth group license. We'd be happy to talk about that. Our original model, we're thinking about, reaching out to college professors, but we're realizing this is going to be useful, hopefully, for a lot of people. So yes, Beth Alverson, if you just email me, we can talk about that. Kevin, I agree. I think it's a lot easier to be motivated to study for your test when you're just doing question after question and it's prompting you, than to just look at a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper telling you all the concepts you need to know. So I think it does help with studying. Thank you, everyone. Okay, goodbye.